I am Anita Kayat. I'm a member of SCORE Cleveland as our speaker tonight. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about SCORE before we get started with the important stuff. Our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. And we hope that anybody who comes to us for mentoring will get all the support they need to be successful as a small business owner. We are well aware, particularly in Cleveland, how important small businesses are to the economy of not only the city, but the whole area. And so we are thrilled that you are here and that you're interested in your small business. Next slide. SCORE does have the largest network of free volunteer small business mentors in the nation. That means that we are all over the United States. There are over 10,000 mentors. And if you come to us with a business that we don't have the competency to help you with, we can find somebody among those 10,000 who will be able to help you. So if you want help, go to our website, www.cleveland.score.org, and click on Find a Mentor, and you will find one. So we have clients from all walks of life, from all cultures, all nationalities. We are very pleased that over 50% of our entrepreneurs are women, and about 10% are veterans. So we encourage everybody to start a business of their own. Okay, next. And that was the last slide. And so I am honored to be able to introduce our speaker, Karen Cross-Hatton, who is a member of SCORE, as I said, not only a member, but importantly, a subject matter expert in human resources, strategy, leadership, and we're very pleased that she's taken time from her busy schedule to give us this session tonight. So I will turn it over to her.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anita, and welcome everybody. I am super excited about doing this. This is a series that we're running for the second time now. However, the last time we ran this was almost a year ago. So really excited about getting this out and dusting it off, because it is still a subject matter that is important. And so tonight's agenda, we're going to discuss culture. We're going to discuss leadership. And then we're going to talk about putting all those things together, and then some of the next steps that you can take. And just a little bit about me. My name is Karen Cross-Hatton, and I am also a member of SCORE, not as a mentor, but as a mentee, but also as a workshop facilitator for SCORE, and so I'm a part of that committee. But I'm also a small business owner. I'm really in the infancy stages of my business as well, and thankfully Anita is also my coach in SCORE. So really take heed to that. And if you're a small business owner, or if you're thinking about opening a business, certainly there are volunteers. The services are free. So really, don't hesitate to reach out, because they can help you from the idea stage on through to exiting the business. But again, my name is Karen Cross-Hatton, and I'm going to facilitate our conversation tonight, and I'm looking forward to kind of jumping right on in. So we're going to discuss a little bit about company and organizational culture. And as we start, I want to invite you all to just take a few moments in the chat, and if you will, kind of introduce yourselves, right? Tell me a little bit about your business, if you're in business for yourself. If not, if you're thinking about starting a business, if you're just here for some career information, but give me a little bit about, who you are, where you're coming from, and what you are looking to get out of this workshop tonight. Just so I want to make sure that I'm able to get to everything. So if you don't mind just taking a few minutes to do that, that would be awesome. Uh-oh, now I'm all over the place with my slides. I'm going to get back on track. There we go. Okay, I see nothing coming in the chat yet. Do you all have access to the chat? Anita, can they enter anything into the chat or the Q&A?
Yes, feel free to access the Q&A or the chat. We're happy to have you. Okay, there we go.
Okay, here we go. Hi, Paul. Awesome, a SCORE volunteer and mentor, another fantastic. After running your own business for 40 years, well, that is certainly nothing to sneeze at. Thank you and welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, oh, we have SCORE, folks, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. All right, Christine, Vera, thank you. Excavating, 15 employees, fantastic. And we do Hornization.
Okay, Elizabeth Smith says she and her daughter own a bakery business.
Oh, fantastic.
In
How close
4
to
locations.
me? Oh, how close to me is that? I want to know. I want to know. All right. Hi, Rod. Oh, it's a
PR agency.
All right. Very good.
Behavioral health.
Fantastic.
So, boy, a broad spectrum.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you. Thank you all for sharing that. That gives me a little bit of an idea of who's in the room. Give Me a Hand Academy. And what do you do at Give Me a Hand Academy? Exactly what kind of business is that? Lachelle? Okay. I'll be watching as you guys are continuing to type, but thank you so much for that. But let's talk about company and organizational culture, shall we? I'm going to get started here. All right. So, what is company culture? That's the first question, right? So when we talk about the culture of a company, we're generally talking about a company culture is a set of attitudes, values, beliefs, goals, and other characteristics, a company or organization follows to create a gratifying work environment. And understanding company culture is so very important because, again, the culture of your company is really based on, that leadership and the beliefs of the leader. And the mission of your organization. That company culture is how people feel when they come into work every day and how leaders show up and the kind of culture that is developed as you all interact, right, as an organization. And so it's very important. So I want to make sure that we understand, what company culture is. Now organizational culture, and sometimes certainly the terms organizational culture and company culture are used interchangeably. Organizational culture refers, again, to the company's mission, their objectives, the expectations and values that guide the employees. Businesses with an organizational culture tend to be more successful than less structured companies because they have systems in place that promote employee performance, productivity, and engagement. And having a strong company culture motivates everyone to do their best work. So as you can see, just kind of in our little diagram here, culture is right at the middle of everything. And then you have your structure, you have your processes, you have your people, right? And that's what all functions around culture. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? I'm hoping. Anita, are we able to promote everybody so that I can kind of see folks that want to see and open up?
Well, if they want to raise their hands and speak, I could open it up to on an individual basis to let them talk. So,
Okay. All right. So I have a question then to pose to those of you or anybody that wants to speak. Do you all know, or can you describe the culture of your business or your workplace right now? Oh, manicuring school.
so if you want to raise your hand, I can allow you to talk. I can open your microphone.
Yeah, so if you use at the bottom of your screen, you should see kind of where the emojis are, the ability to raise your hand.
I guess everybody's bashful.
Oh, okay, well, that's all right. We will keep going then. But again, the question is, I want you to think about if you can describe the culture where you exist right now, in either in your business or in your workplace. If you can have some idea, if there are a couple of words that you can think about, and if you don't want to raise your hand, go ahead and put them in the chat. I invite you to do that as well. Oh, I have a hand, Paul. Yes.
Okay,
Paul,
you can unmute.
Yes, I did. Thank you. I will say that when I owned the company, we did have, I think, a good culture, and it was based on our value system, and we were very clear and straight about our values. And the culture, since the new owner came along, has changed. Whether it's for the better or not, I don't know. I'm not involved with day-to-day activity anymore. But I find it interesting as I still sort of hear about the company that some of the values that we had are now back in place when at the beginning they were taken away.
Interesting. Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Paul. I appreciate that because, you know, company culture really, it does make a difference, right? And like you said, it's based on those values, right? And what you believe in. And if you are a small business owner, and you've taken the time to develop this business, and now you're thinking about, you know, how do you want it to feel? What do you want the experience to be? And oftentimes as business owners, we think about what we want the customer to experience. We think about how we want to serve the customer, but oftentimes we forget about how we want our employees to feel, right? And Paul, you being a business owner previously, how important would you say that it is that we really give some thought around how employees feel? Do you feel like there's any value in that?
Yes, it's extremely valuable. In fact, that was our first value, which was to treat people properly, sort of like the golden rule, but applying that in a business sense. And so allowing people to become part of the organization, to feel valued. I would say that is more important to people than money. Money's always important, of course, we got to feed our families, but that value of knowing people could make a difference in the company was extremely important, and that was our first value.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. That was very valuable, right? Because believe me, it is there's an overflow of this, right? When your employees feel good and when they love coming to work and showing up for you, they show up for your customers, right? And when they don't feel so good, believe it or not, your customers get that sense. No, you know, think about how many times you walked into any place, right? And there was just a vibe in that place that just didn't feel good. Either the employees were, you know, kind of bickering amongst themselves, or they were making it obvious that they didn't want to be there, or whatever the case may be, right? You walked in and you felt uneasy, uncomfortable. It almost felt like you were invading the privacy of this business, right? Because you felt like there was some internal family business happening that didn't feel good, right? So one of the things that we also have to understand is that building your organizational culture has to be intentional, okay?
Well, Christine says that we are a family-based company and try to treat our employees like family. Trust is earned and love is unconditional. So I think that's
That's beautifully
Pretty
said.
impressive.
Yeah, that's beautifully stated. And you know, when you are a small business, you can certainly embrace people in a different way than you can in a large corporation, right? But you know, even with that, you know, and that whole family feel, sometimes that can get to be a little bit much for some people as well. So you want to have a good balance. You want to make sure that people understand that yes, we appreciate you. We're so excited that you show up every day. We value you as a person and your ideas, but this is also a business. You know what I mean? And so we also have to be about the business, you know. All right, so let's move forward here. All right, thank you all. So why is company culture important? And those are some of the things that we just touched upon, like why the culture is important. Well, here's a few more reasons why, right? You have, when you are intentional about building the culture and about concerning yourself with how you make people feel, you get increased employee engagement. You get decreased turnover. You have strong brand identity. You have elevated productivity. You have transformational power. You have top performers, effective onboarding, and a healthy team environment. So let's talk about a few of those things. We won't go into every single one because some I think are a little self-explanatory, but you know, if you have any questions about anyone in particular, please certainly put your questions in the Q&A or the chat, and we can talk more in depth about that. But when you talk about increased employee engagement, you know, what does that look like for you? What does that mean to you when you hear employee engagement? What does that strike up in you? You can put your answer in the chat or raise your hand and we can unmute you.
Well, I would just mention from my own experience that employees who really feel engaged, they want to participate in planning for the organization. They want to help develop projects. So it leads into elevated productivity and decreased turnover. So all of those things really fall down to your bottom line.
Yes, yes, yes. And Lisa says asking their opinion. Absolutely. Employees feel comfortable expressing themselves and presenting ideas. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing of it is that we know that you as business leaders, you know, whether you're a leader in someone else's organization or within your own, you know what it is to to have your voice be heard, right? And we know that you cannot go to your team with every single decision that you're ever going to make. We understand that. But people need to understand the vision. They need to understand where you're going. They need to understand the changes. They need to understand, you know, kind of the WIFM, the what's in it for me. People want to know, how is what we're doing benefiting me, but also how do I benefit your company, your place of business as well, and how am I going to be valued, right? And Christine says yes, they aren't afraid to talk to the boss about good or bad things. Absolutely. You know, but again, that's about how the boss shows up, right? Do you show up as kind of the ogre who's grumpy and just get to work, everybody? Or do you come in and do you say good morning? Do you say, you know, how are things going? Do you take an interest in your employees as individuals, right? That come to you every day with their own set of values, their own set of personal issues, their own set of ideas that sometimes can work to enhance the business that you are trying to get up and going or keeping running. The other thing is that when employees feel engaged, the turnover decrease. Now, if you are a small business owner, you have to understand that every time somebody leaves, some of your money has gone out the door with them. And it's not just the money that you paid them, you know, that they've earned in a paycheck. It takes time and money and resources to train people. It takes time and money and resources to hire people, to advertise new positions or open positions, right? If you are a company that offers benefits and those kinds of things, like every employee really has a dollar amount associated with them, right? And so every time somebody leaves, that means you have to get somebody in and try to get them up to speed, because that person takes the knowledge and the training and the time that has already been spent, right? So it is of value to us as leaders to try to preserve and protect and develop a company culture in which our folks want to stay, right? Forgot to present name. Parinthia, I hope I'm saying that right. Brown, Harvard Community Services Center, 15 to 20 employees. Very nice. They have staff there for 30 years. Okay. And people that leave desire to come back. That says something about that company culture for certain, when people leave and want to come back, right? But also when people feel a part of your company, when they feel a part of the culture, when they feel valued, that productivity, as Anita alluded to, is elevated as well, because then people don't mind doing things for you. You know, people don't mind going the extra mile. People don't mind giving your customer that extra boost, right? That extra feel that makes them repeat customers, right? Because oftentimes these employees are your frontliners. They have really much more interaction with your customers than you do oftentimes. So it matters how you treat them. It matters what the company culture and environment feels like, because for a lot of them, they spend just as much time in your business as they do in their own homes. So it matters how they're spending that time. And you will get top performers out of that group of people who feel included and respected, right? And if the onboarding is effective, everybody's on board, all hands on deck, everybody's helping to get that person up to speed and help to keep pushing them forward so that they are valuable members of the team. And you have a healthy team environment. You don't have the woe is me and the grapevine and the I can't stand this person and I can't stand that person and all the drama that goes along with cultures that are just left to kind of create themselves, right? Any questions or thoughts additionally? If you have a thought that you want to share or a question, please put in the chat or raise a hand. Okay. So if you are a business owner and you're thinking about these things and you're like, you know what, I think my company culture could use a little bit of a tweaking, right? Maybe you're not just, in the toilet for sure, but maybe it could just use a little bit of tweaking or enhancing, right? So if you're in a leadership position at work, and this is even whether it's your own business or another, but you're in a leadership position, and I really feel like any of us can be in leadership positions, right? We don't always have to have a title to be a leader, right? But for the sake of this conversation, you're in a leadership position at work. Follow these steps to ensure that your teams achieve success in the workplace. Be a good communicator. Be a good communicator. And when we talk about communication, we also know that can be different depending on who's in the workplace, right? And so one of the sessions that we're going to talk about later in the series is about who's in the workplace, right? Because we know that we are working with many generations within the workplace today, right? And so therefore communicating with everyone in the workplace may look different, right? An email isn't the thing that always does it for people, because it allows sometimes for people to read their own message, right? And maybe the intent of the message doesn't come across well. So learning how to, if you're going to use email, be a good communicator through email. If you're going to present and you're going to talk to people, being able to show up and be a person that they want to listen to, right? Being clear and concise in your communication, checking in with them to make sure that they heard the message that you're giving, right? Being able to listen to concerns and ideas. And somebody alluded to that in the chat before in terms of when we were talking about employee engagement. That's very, very important. But also providing feedback. And let's talk about feedback for a minute, because one of the things that when we're talking about feedback, we're not always talking about communicating the negative. The what did somebody do that we didn't care for? What did somebody do? Like, what are all the mistakes? But a good job. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming to work today. I know you look like you got a lot on your mind today. Thanks for coming in. You know, providing feedback and saying, you know, hey, you did a great job today, can go a long, long way. You know, and as Paul said, you know, it's not always about money. Sometimes people just want to be recognized for the job that they do every day. They are well aware that it's their job. And I've so often heard leaders say, well, I mean, what do they want? Well, kudos for doing their job. I mean, that's what we hired them for. They get a paycheck. That should be all the kudos they need, right? So, you know, but that really is counterintuitive to how you deal with people, because these are still human beings and they still want to be told that they are doing a great job. And when you give them that you're doing a great job feedback, and you do that often, when you have to have those more crucial conversations that say, hey, we got to talk about a few things, right? And are then having to have the crucial conversations or the more difficult conversations, you can do that and it can be well received. A person doesn't want to feel like every time they come to your office that it's going to be something awful, right? And even in how we give corrective feedback or constructive feedback, you know, there's an art to doing that as well. And I see some more in the chat. What do we have in the chat? Paul, we had a simple and straightforward mission and vision for the company, but our values were the most important thing and provided everyone guidance. Right. Okay. So you love yourself and others, find and keep customers for life. Always do the right thing and have fun. I love that, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing that. Right. And if you hold on to those values, right, and those are the things that lead you, then that's how you begin to develop the culture. And if those are the values, all of your employees should know that, right? Everyone should be able to tell you what this company values, right? And everyone should be able to tell you whether or not they feel valued in that culture. You know, and what are some of the things that go on that make them feel valued, right? And then that fourth thing, be consistent. You know, you can't come in one day holly jolly and then the next day you're the Grinch. You know, you got to pick, and you can't pick and choose. You got to be consistent, because that's what people depend on. They don't want to dread seeing you coming or be unsure about what's coming next. You know, they want you to be consistent and fair. They want everybody across the board to be treated the same. They don't want to feel like there's a lot of favoritism going on. And so they want you to be consistent in your treatment of them. They want you to be consistent in your decision making and consistent in how you show up. Right? Any questions, comments before we move on? Okay. Feel free to at any time jump on in. All right. So now we talked a lot about culture and organizational culture, the company culture. So now let's talk a little bit about leadership. Okay. So leadership, so we have this definition of leadership, right? What is leadership? Leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act toward achieving a common goal. In a business setting, this can mean directing coworkers or workers and colleagues with a strategy to meet the company's needs, right? So, do you think that the leader is always the person sitting in the office with the title? Yes or no? In the chat, raise of hands, show of hands, right? Is the leader always the one sitting in the office with the title? No. Okay, right. No, nope, absolutely not. That's right. My 9-year-old says I say no. Absolutely not. That's right, right? So if you are the person in that organization, right, with the title, how do you make sure that you have buy-in from the other leaders in your organization, right? So that everybody's on the same page. What are some suggestions you have? Just go ahead and shoot me a few in the chat. And these are things that you may do or things that you may have experienced that you feel do a good job of that, right? Making sure that the leaders without the titles are on the same page as you. Create an open door policy. Very good. I like that, Paul. Communicate. Absolutely. Absolutely. Have a leadership group that develops strategy. Very nice. Very nice. Any others? And Paul, one thing I'm going to say about that open door policy, because we all say that, right? And we all hear that, and we know that that kind of is a term, right? An open door policy. But even in your open door policy, you want to make sure that you create some understanding about what that open door means, right? Because if your door is literally open all the time for everything, you know that you will have people coming in when they have disputes with other coworkers. They will be coming in your office all times a day, and you won't be able to get a lot done. So what does that open door policy look like? You know, communication, honesty, common goals. Absolutely. Common goals is key, right? And those are some excellent ideas. And I thank you all for putting that in there. But Paul, you still have the ability to unmute yourself, sir. Let's talk about that open door policy for just a minute. You tell me how yours work.
Well, you're absolutely right. When you talked about the interruptions that can occur, but you have to decide from the start what's more important. Mm-hmm. And your team is the most important as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. So yes, there were rules of the road, but people understood from the beginning what those rules of the road would be in terms of executing an open door policy. Okay. Open door policy means being open to new ideas, being open to criticism, being open to make changes when changes are necessary, being open to talk people through problems they might be having and helping them reach their own solutions.
Yes, perfect, Paul. Thank you so much. I just wanted you to put some parameters around that, right? Because oftentimes when we say open door policy, we open that door and the floodgates come in and then we're never able to get anything done. But as you said, right, we have to have some parameters around that. We have to have some boundaries around that. We have to be very clear in what our open door policy looks like and the types of things that we're talking about, right? And when I may not be behind that door and there's something else going on, there still needs to be a way for people to communicate and to be heard, right? All right. So let's just take a real quick look at leadership versus management, right? So in leadership, you may or may not be a manager, right? But you must have the ability to inspire followers. And as we all just said, right, that it certainly may not be the person that's running the place that has the most followers, right? Emphasize innovation. You may be unconcerned with preserving existing structures, which means that you're open to new ideas, you're open to new ways of doing things. Everything doesn't have to stay the way that it always was, just because that's the way that we've always done it, right? Typically operates with relative independence and may be less concerned with interpersonal issues, versus those managers who may or may not be leaders, who may or may not inspire those under them. They emphasize rationality and control, right? You're going to do what I say just because I said so, and this is my position, and this is my job, and you're going to do what I say. And that can sometimes even be the leader of the company that comes across with that attitude, right? They seek to work within preserved existing corporate structures, typically a link in the corporate chain of command, and they may be more concerned with interpersonal issues, right? And so when we're talking about interpersonal issues, there's, I know that I've worked in places where you had your managers gossiping right along with the employees, right? And taking sides on things and making comments on things that other people were thinking or feeling or saying, or about management or about some of the management decisions, those kinds of things, right? So they get caught up in that messy stuff, right? As opposed to trying to be a leader and help people work through things so you don't have time for all of that kind of stuff to fester, right? When you hear that stuff, you're not being a part of it, but you're being a solution maker as a leader, right? Any other thoughts around leadership versus management? Number one, and number two, think about these definitions and just do a little self-reflection, and I'm not going to ask you to put anything in the chat unless you want to, but are you a leader or are you a manager? And yes, Paul, your hand is up. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I have always found that the best leaders and the best managers have qualities from both sides of this page.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. And I agree. But
I always think of leaders more as those that inspire employees to really work towards the common goal. And on the other hand, the manager is responsible to make sure that the work gets done and the output continues.
Right.
So one maybe is a bit more practical in a way. But I agree with Paul. I think good leaders and good managers have both of characteristics from both of those columns.
Okay. And totally agree. My question though is that if you are operating only on one side or the other, are you really as effective?
I would say no.
Exactly, right? So, if you're a person that is just about managing and not leading, there's some room for improvement there, and vice versa. If you're just about the leading without the work and without making sure things get done and without, that piece of it, those management pieces of it, right? It all kind of falls down, right? We have a few who are not open to change or growth. This is Lisa. She says in the chat, we have a few who are not open to change or growth. They want to do their work and be done, which is okay, but it's difficult to motivate. Any ideas? Oh, that is awesome. That is a great question. I'm going to open it up to the floor to ask if anybody has any suggestions before I kind of jump in and give some thoughts. Any thoughts for Lisa?
I think change is difficult for many especially long-term employees. Change is difficult, even if it's a good change. It's just doing something different and learning a different way of doing things or accepting that maybe we have to be more technologically capable.
Mhm.
So I think it's a matter of developing a strategy that kind of leads them towards the change that needs to happen.
Mhm.
This is a
It's very
difficult,
good.
it's difficult because we're human beings.
Yes.
And sometimes you have A students
Mm-hmm.
and B students.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you don't have any C students, so to speak.
Right.
But sometimes you have to recognize that within your business, you're going to have some people that are not going to fire on all cylinders all the time.
Right.
And so you have to be patient with those folks,
Mm-hmm.
especially people that are sort of stuck in the mud. That's really hard. And so if you create a good value system and you have a good mission and vision statement, something they can grasp onto, and values that are important to the whole team. And if your team helps you create those values and buys into those values, generally speaking, your job as the business owner becomes, I don't want to say easier, but it's palatable. It's doable because you've created an environment where other people can shine.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Very nice, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I have two other hands raised. I have Vera and Rod. So Rod, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead and make your comment.
When we look at the management structure here,
Yes.
for me, with my company, I'm opening a nonprofit now, behavioral health as well. But before that, I had both a home improvement company and I had a delivery company.
Okay.
And I typically, because some of this, if with my manager the type that you're going to do it my way because I'm the manager, you typically created more problems for me.
Yeah.
You did help me. You
Yeah.
you actually really killed people's spirit versus pouring value into them.
Yes.
So for me, you don't get promoted easily like that.
Right.
We need to be able to work together. We need to be able to value people. I try to take the approach that I need this job done, and rather you use your hand or your feet, I'm not going to be concerned about it. I just need it done right.
Okay. Very good.
So I
Yes.
can let them now. For that other question that we were looking at, as
Yes.
far as hard to change,
Yes.
I've had one. I found that if I found out what other people value, maybe they needed money.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe with that extra effort that they put to it, other people saw where there was a monetary benefit to it.
Mm-hmm.
I try as much as possible to purposely find something to brag on you about,
Mm-hmm.
talk about. And then also I found that sometimes I have to give people small changes. I need this thing really changed in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just put the change on them, it's going to mess them up. So let's start with the baby steps. Instead of taking 3 giant steps, maybe we'll take 9 small baby steps so that they don't feel threatened. Because a lot of times I found that people feel threatened that maybe now, since I can't do this, you're going to fire me, versus, no, let's just take our time and work through this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was the approach I took.
Thank you so much, Rob. Both very great pieces of advice, and a great way to definitely approach that. All right, Ms. Vera. Okay, Ms. Vera, can you speak?
I think I'm
Yes.
unmuted now.
Okay, very good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Sure.
I'm looking at this from a volunteer standpoint,
Okay.
motivating volunteers, and especially working with those that are not, that they want to volunteer, but they're not particularly interested in change.
Mm-hmm.
And things change, technology change.
Yes.
And, I'm looking for ways to motivate those individuals that, it's not the same as it was yesterday or the day before or last year.
Mm-hmm.
And with COVID, things are very different. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, so there are individuals that are stuck, 3 years ago.
Yes.
So how do we motivate those individuals to change?
Okay. Well, now those are some tough questions. So let's talk about it a little bit, Ms. Vera, because I don't know that we're going to be able to have kind of we can come up with a list of some ideas, but again, because I really don't know the folks that we're talking about, but and everything is not going to work on everyone. And as Rod said, and as Paul said, these are human beings. And so, one of the things so that I was going to say, and Christine, again, this is also to your question, and thank you for asking the question, is that you have to understand that there are some people who see this as a job, and they're not going to, no matter what you do, they're not going to see it as anything other than a job. They're going to come, they're going to do what they're going to do, and then they're going to leave, right? And when you talk about change and other things, well, one suggestion is to have them involved in some of those discussions about change, right? If change needs to happen, or they need to, find a way to make them a leader in the change. Because once you get their buy-in, and depending, if it's somebody, for instance, a lot of times the folks that don't want to change are the folks that have been there for a long time, right? They're used to things being a particular way, and they don't want to change things because they're comfortable with things the way they are. But oftentimes you can go to that person and say, Jim, you have been here for a long time. I rely on you and I count on you, because you have a lot of historical knowledge. You know how things used to be, but you also have seen how this company has evolved and has changed. And I counted on you as one of the leaders in this company to help us continue to do that, right? You give a person the credit and validate their longevity and their ability to be there for a while, and tell them that you're counting on them to help you to lead everyone else through the change, right? Then they feel like they've been given a part of the change, and that all of their choices have not just been taken away from them. You incorporate them as a part of your change strategy, right? And you just got to identify the biggest curmudgeons you have in there, right? You identify who are going to be the most right? And you bring those folks together, and you tell them, now this is a special meeting. You guys have been here. You are the folks that I really count on. We have this big change coming, and you give them the whys. We need to do this for this reason, that reason, and the other reason, and we're counting on you to help us, get everybody on board, and to help lead the change. Now, what is it that I can do for you to help make sure that you are equipped to be able to do that, right? And maybe you have to work with those folks a little bit behind the scenes first, right? To get them ready to lead this change, but that time that you spend in doing that could be very, very valuable down the road, because now you have their buy-in. And if people are looking at them, and if you can convert them, then you can get everybody else on board, right? Because if those are the biggest ones that are going to put a stop to everything and complain the whole way and tell everybody else this is stupid, right? Those are the ones that you can use to get that change going. If they are a problem to the extent that it's really affecting morale and productivity, then maybe you need to have another conversation, and maybe it has to be a critical conversation about, these are the action plans that you need to, this is what you need to see from that person in order to make sure that they're going to be able to continue to be a valued member of your organization or that team or what have you, right? And it's not about being confrontational or trying to get rid of people, but sometimes you have to make that decision.
I'm not sure what happened. Let's wait a minute and see if she comes back. I think she must have internet problems. There she is. You're muted.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I all of a sudden lost connectivity there for a minute. Okay, Christine, I was asking if that was helpful to you. You can put it in the chat or let me know what you're thinking. And Elizabeth is busy here in the Q&A. And she says, we make our managers a part of creating solutions. Fantastic, Elizabeth. And that's sort of what I was talking about, right? Like making them feel a part of the process. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again, and hopefully we can get ourselves back on track. All right. Did I lose you guys again?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or if it's the actual Zoom platform. I'm not sure. But
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm
Well,
gonna get back on track. No worries.
okay.
All right. So again, I was talking about organizational leadership and culture. Did you hear that much, Anita?
Not any of it really.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. That lets me know where I need to begin. Okay, so we were just kind of wrapping up our conversation about leadership, and now we were gonna put it all together, right? And so we're looking at organizational leadership and culture, right? And understanding that the success of any business depends on its organization. Culture, positive organization out the workplace. Yes. Oh, okay. That leaders need to be able to encourage a positive organizational culture in order to keep employees motivated and engaged. And as Paul has indicated and talked about, that's what you have, that's what leads you, right? That you have to keep your eye on the prize, and the decisions that you make, the people that you hire, the culture that you're building is all dependent upon those key organizational things, right? Your mission, your vision, your values, right? And that's where your culture is sprung from. And so that's one of those things. And so you have to keep that always at the front of mind as you are building your culture and your teams. Okay, makes sense, everybody? All right. So another thing about culture is learned through interaction. So you indicate to your team and your teams and your customers, oftentimes you through your interactions with them, they learn what your culture is, right? And so oftentimes culture is associated with behavior. So the way you behave is a reflection of that culture that you're building. Subcultures also form through rewards, right? So, when folks are rewarded for good work. You have your top performers, right? Then you maybe have your middle of the road folks over here, and then you have your low performers over here, right? They become subcultures of their own, but then other cultures can develop as well. But you want to try to make sure that you're keeping everybody on the same page, and that you're constantly building, and that those that you need to, that have kind of, that are standing out as leaders within your organization, even if they don't have a title, give them something to do. Help them help folks along. If you have folks that are struggling, help pair them with other folks that can help them get up to speed. A lot of times, you know, they take it more easily coming from one of their peers than they do from one of their superiors, right? People shape the culture. And culture is negotiated because, you know, people can say what they want or what they are looking for. And you can choose to, as the leader, you know, have some give and take in that. What are some of the things you're willing to bend on? What are some of the things that are for the greater good, that are the morale boosters that you can give a little space on? And what are the non-negotiables? What are the things that just are not going to change? And that have been established, those boundaries, you know, once you begin to operate in that thing, right? Culture is difficult to change. So you want to be intentional about building that culture. You want to be intentional about even understanding that there is a culture there that needs to be built, right? And when I'm talking about being intentional, that includes being intentional about the people that you are hiring into that culture, right? Oftentimes as leaders, we just are trying to get butts in seats to do the job, right? And sometimes just having somebody there to do the job is not best for your culture because that person doesn't fit in. They can do the job, but they're bumping heads with everybody. They're making havoc everywhere. You know what I mean? And so when you're hiring, you know, and even if you need to get a little assistance with that, you know, you can do that. You know, because when you are hiring, you have to kind of build a profile in your mind of what do we need in this culture to make us go forward, to help us get ahead, right? So what are the kinds of questions? What are the kinds of, you know, things that we need to know? Do these folks need to demonstrate? Is there specific experience that they need to bring to the table that fits in our culture? Are there gaps in our skill sets where we are right now, right, that we need to fill? So, you know, hiring is not just about getting somebody in to do the job. It also is about maintaining and preserving the culture that you are building within your organization. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions, any comments about that? No? Yes? Maybe so? All right, let's keep moving then. Okay. So outcomes of a supportive environment on individuals, right? If that's what the goal is, you know, some of those outcomes, it creates a supportive culture and society. It helps one's identity is affirmed by others or circumstances when they're surrounded by a conducive environment. Intelligence, happiness, health, and kindness within that society begin to grow. And with the positive effects on identity affirmation, the culture becomes one with more positive contributions from individuals. And that just keeps on going. That keeps on going. Because the more that I am affirmed as an individual and as a value to this organization, as my ideas and thoughts are respected, as I'm respected as a person, I'm going to keep coming back and I'm going to keep doing my best. And this is just going to continue, you know, and happy, right, within your organization. Okay. So 8 leadership styles. I'm going to stop sharing here and share a real quick video with you all. Give me a second to get that queued up with regards to leadership styles. Now, as we do this, I want you to think about, once you are listening to some of these definitions, about what type of leader you think you are, right? All right, hold on just a second while I get this video going for us. Let's see. Okay, and share my sound. All right, and here we go.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jen, and I'm a career coach at Indeed with over 10 years of career services experience. I've personally worked with hundreds of job seekers in a variety of different roles, from individual contributors to CEOs. Today, I'm going to share 8 common leadership styles, their benefits and challenges, and signs that one might be your natural style. At the end of the video, I'll share a strategy to help you decide which leadership style is best suited for you. Different situations may have different needs, so it's important to know when a specific style might work best. Let's begin with our first common leadership style, coach. A coaching leader quickly recognizes the strengths, weaknesses, and motivations of others to help them improve. They often assist in setting goals and provide regular feedback with challenging projects to promote growth. Coaching leaders are skilled in setting clear expectations and creating positive, motivating environments. The coach leadership style is one of the most advantageous for employers as well as the employees they lead. Unfortunately, it's often one of the most underutilized styles, mostly because it can be more time-intensive than other types of leadership. Coaching leadership might be a natural style for you if you're supportive, offer guidance instead of giving commands, value learning as a way of growing, ask guided questions, and balance relaying knowledge with helping others find it for themselves. Coaching leadership is positive in nature. It promotes the development of new skills, free thinking, empowerment, it revisits company objectives, and fosters a confident company culture. Leaders who coach are often seen as valuable mentors. While this style does have many advantages, it can also be more time-consuming as it requires one-on-one time with employees. This can sometimes be difficult to obtain in fast-paced environments when you have time-sensitive priorities. An example of coaching leadership style in the workplace is to mentor someone who is interested in your role or area of business. You assess what they know and where their gaps in knowledge are, and recommend meetings, videos, or courses that you take to learn more. Set up a follow-up meeting and discuss what they've learned, assess the knowledge gained, and determine new areas to work on. You can also send interesting articles or resources to them as they come up. And don't forget to congratulate them periodically on their progress. For more information on coaching leadership and when to use this style, be sure to check out this career guide article. Now, if you find that you naturally lead through inspiration and confidence, you might be a visionary leader. Visionary leaders have a strong ability to drive progress and change. They inspire employees and earn trust for new ideas. They are also able to establish a strong organizational bond and strive to foster confidence among direct reports and colleagues alike. This type of leadership is especially helpful in small, fast-growing organizations, but it can also be helpful in larger organizations experiencing transformations or corporate restructuring. You might be a visionary leader if you are persistent and bold, strategic, risk-taking, inspirational, optimistic, and innovative. Visionary leaders can help companies grow. They unite teams, the overall company, and improve outdated technologies or practices. Often focusing on the big picture, they should be careful not to miss important details or opportunities. They may also sacrifice the resolution of present-day issues because they're so future-oriented, which could leave their team feeling unheard. On the other hand, a leader that is known for helping their team feel fulfilled is a servant leader. Servant leaders live by a people-first mindset. They believe that when a team member feels personally and professionally fulfilled, they're most effective and more likely to consistently produce great work. Their emphasis on employee satisfaction and collaboration can lead to achieving higher levels of respect from their team. A servant leader is well suited to perform well in different industries and company sizes, but it's especially prevalent within nonprofits. These types of leaders are exceptionally skilled in building employee morale and helping people re-engage with their work. You may be a servant leader if you motivate your team, have excellent communication skills, personally care about your team, encourage collaboration and engagement, and commit to growing your team professionally. Servant leaders have the capacity to boost employee loyalty and productivity. They can also improve employee development and decision-making, cultivate trust, and create future leaders. But servant leaders have to be cautious. They can experience burnout by putting the needs of their team above their own. Since they develop such close relationships with their team, they may also have a hard time being authoritative when they need to be. Before I move on, let me know if this video is helpful by liking and subscribing for more career and job search advice. All right, let's say you prefer to make decisions with little to no input from others. You might be an autocratic leader. Sometimes called an authoritarian style of leadership, this type of leader is someone who is focused almost entirely on results and efficiency. They often make decisions alone or with a small trusted group, and they expect employees to do exactly what they're asked. This leadership style can excel in organizations with strict guidelines or in compliance-heavy industries like military, manufacturing, law enforcement, and healthcare. It can also be beneficial when used with employees who need a great deal of supervision. An example might be with a new member of a team who has little to no experience. However, this leadership style can stifle creativity and make employees feel confined and micromanaged. You may be an autocratic leader if you have self-confidence, are self-motivated, communicate clearly and consistently, follow the rules, are dependable, value highly structured environments, and believe in supervised work environments. Autocratic leaders can promote productivity through delegation. They provide clear, direct communication and reduce employee stress by making decisions quickly on their own. But this style of leadership can also cause stress to the leader, who has to bear all of the weight of the decision-making. The lack of flexibility and rigidness, as well as the lack of interest in hearing the ideas from others, can also cause resentment on the team. To learn more about the autocratic leadership style, be sure to check out this career guide article. Now, let's say you prefer to delegate tasks and provide a lot of autonomy. You might be a laissez-faire leader. Often referred to as hands-off leadership, this style is the opposite of the autocratic leadership type. Hands-off leaders focus mostly on delegating tasks to team members while providing little to no supervision. Because a laissez-faire leader does not spend their time intensely managing employees, they often have more time to dedicate to other projects. This leadership style works best when all team members are highly experienced, well-trained, and require little oversight. However, it can cause a dip in productivity if employees are confused about their leader's expectations or if a team member needs consistent motivation or boundaries to work well. You might be a laissez-faire leader if you effectively delegate, believe in the freedom of choice, provide sufficient resources and tools, will take control if needed, offer constructive criticism, foster leadership qualities in others, and value autonomy. This style encourages accountability and creativity within a relaxed work environment. Because of this, it can also increase employee retention. Try to avoid this style when working with new employees as they need guidance and hands-on support in the early days. An example of hands-off leadership in the workplace might be if you give your employees the option to set their own working hours, as long as they work the 40 hours in a work week and hit individual goals. Now, if you like to consider the opinions of others before you make a decision, you might be a democratic leader. The democratic leadership style is a combination of autocratic and laissez-faire. A democratic leader is someone who asks for input and considers feedback from their team before making a decision. This leadership style is often credited with fostering higher levels of employee engagement and workplace satisfaction. But this is because they drive discussion and participation. It's an excellent style for organizations focused on creativity and innovation, like the tech industry. You may be a democratic leader if you value group discussions, provide all information to a team when making decisions, promote a work environment where everyone shares their ideas, are flexible, and are good at mediation. Under this leadership style, employees can feel empowered, valued, and unified. It has the power to boost retention and morale. It also requires less managerial oversight, as employees are typically part of the decision-making process and know exactly what to do. One thing to be aware of is that this leadership style has the potential to seem inefficient and costly. It takes time to organize big group discussions, obtain ideas and feedback, discuss possible outcomes, and communicate a decision. Now, if you're the type of person who likes to set high standards and focuses on performance, you might be a pace setter. The pace-setting leadership style is one of the most effective for driving fast results. These leaders are primarily focused on performance. They often set high standards and hold their team members accountable for hitting their goals. While the pace-setting leadership style is helpful in fast-paced environments where team members need to be energized, it's not always the best option for team members who need mentorship and feedback. You may be a pace setter leader if you set a high bar, focus on goals, are slow to praise, will jump in to hit goals if needed, are highly competent, and value performance over soft skills. Pace-setting leadership pushes employees to hit goals and accomplish business objectives. It promotes high-energy, dynamic work environments. But pace-setting leadership can also lead to stressed-out employees as they're always pushing towards a goal or a deadline. The fast-paced work environment fostered under this style can also create miscommunications. Work environments where this works well include legal, sales, fast food, or any environment that is deadline or results-driven. The pace-setter approach works well when all team members are self-motivated, highly competent, and need little direction. To be most effective, this style in particular works best in combination with other leadership styles. Lastly, if you like to follow a strict hierarchy and expect team members to follow procedures, you might be a bureaucratic leader. Bureaucratic leaders are similar to autocratic leaders in that they expect their team members to follow the rules and procedures precisely as written. This leadership style focuses on fixed duties within a hierarchy where each employee has a set list of responsibilities. There's little room for collaboration and creativity. This style is most effective in highly regulated industries like finance, healthcare, or government. Signs that you might be a bureaucratic leader could be if you're detail-oriented and task-focused, value rules and structure, have a great work ethic, are strong-willed, feel a commitment to your organization, and are self-disciplined. Bureaucratic leaders can be efficient in organizations that need to follow strict rules and regulations, especially if each person in the team or company has a clearly defined role, which leads to efficiency. These leaders might separate work from relationships to avoid the clouding of a team's ability to hit goals. While these leaders can lead highly efficient teams, this style does not promote creativity. It can feel restricting to some employees. This leadership style is also slow to change and does not thrive in environments that need to be dynamic. For more information on how to demonstrate leadership skills at work, be sure to check out this career guide article. And now for our bonus tip, how to choose and develop your leadership style. It's important to remember that you don't have to be a manager to be a leader within your team or your organization. If you're interested in a leadership career path or just looking to refine your leadership approach, start by choosing a style that feels authentic or that you respond to as an individual contributor. If you're just starting to refine your style, choose one that aligns with your strengths. Choosing one that doesn't align with your personality or values can come across as inauthentic. To find out what style that might be, ask yourself the following questions. Would I rather make a decision on my own or collectively? Do I focus on short or long-term goals? Does my motivation come from empowerment or direction? What does a healthy team dynamic look like to me? If you've determined what type of leadership style you'd like to develop, now try these strategies. First, speak with a more experienced leader to gain insight into how they developed their style and what worked for them. Next, experiment by trying out varied approaches in different circumstances. Pay attention to the outcome and how natural the style felt to you in those moments. Be flexible in changing your approach. Then ask for feedback from both managers and colleagues. Although sometimes hard to hear, constructive feedback helps you grow into a successful leader. In my experience, I found that the best leaders use a blend of leadership styles. As you gain more leadership experience, you'll start to learn which style to use depending on the situation. For example, if you were a veteran, you might have used an autocratic style when you were in active duty. After entering the public sector, you might try a more democratic approach. For more examples of leadership styles and when they're best used, be sure to check out this career guide article. So there you have it. As a recap, the 8 most common leadership styles are coach, visionary, servant, autocratic, laissez-faire, democratic, pacesetter, and bureaucratic.
Okay, I hope that did not put anyone to sleep, but I do love that video because it really helps us all to get a good handle on leadership styles and kind of give us some ways to think about who we are as leaders. Did anybody have a comment, a question, anything that they wanted to share after viewing that video? Go ahead and raise your hand or put your thoughts in the chat. No hands, no chat. All right, we're in the home stretch now, not much longer. Great synopsis. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, she did a really good job of, laying out those leadership styles and really being quick about, so that you can, giving you those quick points really, and I love that video. I really do, because it helps to really get us where we're going when we're talking about it. Anybody else have anything to share or any thoughts? Would you like to share what type of leader you think you are? Which leadership style really kind of hit home for you? Rod. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Rod. Rod, if you take yourself off mute, you can speak. There you go.
Okay. I saw me in pretty much all of those, but the main ones for me, because I agree with it, depending on who I'm working with and what we're doing.
Yes.
I may have to switch hats because everybody's not the same. So I got to work, with different people, different ways. But my primary two is the servant leader and the laissez-faire.
Okay.
Because I care, like in our organization, I understand, and oftentimes when I'm working with people, like I understand that we have clients that the staff is focused on and helping them to get developed. But I also understand, for me, I'm developing both clients and staff. That sometimes I have staff that will be almost like a client.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And so building them up, because nowadays people, they can have an argument or fight at home, or something happen with their significant other, and they bring that energy in the door. And it's like, okay, we got to get this. I can't let you get to that client like that. So I got to kind of bring that in. And then as much as possible, after working with people, excuse me, I like to be able to step back and say, go for it. You know where we want to go. You know what we want to do.
Right.
Because I love leaders and then my management people to be able to make decisions. I'm not afraid of you making a mistake. I'm more afraid that you won't make a decision at all. And so now I have to do everything, because if I got to make all the decisions, then why do I need a manager?
Right.
Those are my two top ones, though.
All right.
Leader.
Very good, Rod. Yes, and thank you for sharing that. And I see some folks sharing in the chat. And let's see. So Elizabeth says, my daughter is the visionary and I'm the coach. Okay. And isn't it nice to be able to work hand in hand like that, right? So sometimes it's not just about who you are as a leader, but it is about building a leadership team, right? With folks that may operate in these very other, spaces where you're not as strong, right? And they have a role to play in your team and on your team, right? Depending on, again, what the circumstances are. Christine says, I would say coach and democratic. Okay. Simone, coach and visionary. Lisa, you're a rule follower, right? Because of where you were and how folks kind of led in that environment, and that kind of has rubbed off on you and made you who you are as a leader, right? And can you have access? Yeah, the video itself is it's a YouTube video, but I can make sure that I get you the link to it when we get ready to send out the recording of this webinar. But yeah, I'll make sure that you get that. Not a problem. Okay. Anybody else want to share? I don't see any other hands. Anita, do you see any hands? Oh, go ahead, Vera. I see you getting up. You're ready to say something. Go ahead. No.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, your hand is up.
Lower.
Your hand is up right now. Okay, there you go. There you go. All right. Anyone else? Okay, fantastic. Then let's bring her on home. Let's bring her on home. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get right back to it. And let me switch up that view. I think I can switch my view. Hold on just a second. I'm trying to switch my view so you don't see those notes there. For whatever reason, it's not letting me. Okay, hold on. Let me just switch her up again.
I would just mention that we will be sending out a link to the recording and the slides in the next day or two. So you should look for those in your email.
Yes, indeed. Look for those in your email. Okay, now I think I got it. Okay, I'm hoping I got it. Okay, while I'm getting it together, did anybody have anything that they wanted to say or share as we are rounding out the evening? All right, can you all see my screen now?
Nope.
No,
No.
can't see your screen.
Okay, well, I'm working on it. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm almost there, I hope. All right, let's see. How about now?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. All right, so the question then becomes, why is leadership important for organizational culture? Well, leaders show employees how to embody values that contribute to organizational culture. It is the duty of a leader to communicate the company's mission, goals, and core values. Leaders are responsible for defining, teaching, measuring, and rewarding the culture they want to foster, right? And so many times you have to just always, as Paul said, you have to keep those things in front of you. You don't want to, what we call, have mission creep, right? Where you say that this is your mission, but every decision that you make and all the activities that you engage in go against what your mission is, and you're getting further and further and further away from what that mission is. And it's your job to know what the mission is, to know what the goals are, to understand the core values as leaders in your organization, and then to lead accordingly, to make sure that everybody understands what those are. And as you're making decisions as a team, as you're making decisions about what is the next thing that we need to do, or what are the changes we need to make, you want to make sure that you are keeping those values at the forefront. How will these decisions impact the values? How will it impact the culture? How will it impact the employees? How will it impact the customers? You want to make sure that you are very clear about how those key stakeholders are impacting. Okay. All right. So how leadership affects organizational culture continued. Here we are. So managers can teach organizational culture through social interactions. Again, in an earlier slide, we understand that the culture equals behavior, and that the culture is taught, it's learned. Through their own actions, leaders show employees what behavior is accepted and encouraged. And here are 7 ways that leadership affects organizational culture. Leadership defines and teaches the core values. It fosters a desire to learn. It promotes a culture of recognition, encourages a shared vision, changes the culture, improves job satisfaction, and ensures accountability. And that's a new word to the conversation, but definitely not a new word when we think about our culture and our businesses, right? Accountability. You are what you constantly do, right? Which makes excellence not, you are what you constantly do, which makes excellence not an act, but a habit. right? So excellence is not an act. We are not acting like we're excellent. We're not acting like we got this together, but it becomes a habit because this is how we behave each and every day, right? All right, so let's get to wrapping things up here, right? I want everybody to just kind of take a moment to think about what is going to be the one takeaway. What's that one big idea that you can take away from tonight's conversation? I want you to take a moment to think about that, and I want you to go ahead and put it in the chat, right? Share your big takeaway in the chat. All right, fantastic. How I lead will set the stage on how the team will react. Absolutely. My takeaway is learning my leadership style. Fantastic. Fantastic. And if you need help with that, I mean, we are available. You know, there are folks available. There are leadership assessments out there. We will be actually doing one in one of the sessions later in this series. And again, this is a series. So this is just night one, talking about culture. But we will be, if you join us next week, we will be talking about understanding your why, you know. All right, leadership is very important on where the company and employees are heading. Absolutely. Leadership is the art of motivating. Isn't that the truth? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Vera, the art of motivating. I love the last phrase, excellence becomes a habit. Yes, I learned we are already doing most of the good stuff strictly from instinct. Makes me feel good. Fantastic, Elizabeth. Fantastic. All right, Rod, that my company will largely be affected by my style of leadership. Absolutely. Leadership is the key to success. And I'm going to tell you, I'm developing another workshop too. I don't know if it'll be coming soon, but one of them is about how it's about the leadership mistakes that you could be making that impact your bottom line. Because there is research out there that says that great leaders can double their profit just by being great leaders. But there's also research to suggest that poor leadership impacts your profits negatively. And there are mistakes that you could be making as leaders that do just that. And sometimes when you feel like your company is successful, you may not think that you're really impacting your profits, but you don't know how much more successful your company could be, or how much more profitable your company could be if you are the right leader and you have the right leaders in place. So that's an aside, but yeah, there's research that says that. So this is very, very important. Yes. And you guys are getting some of the great things. Leadership is the key to success. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And just kind of, thank you all again for just kind of coming and hanging out with me for a while. I want to talk about some of the next steps for you. Number one is, to assess your organization's culture, right? Like really take a deep dive and look at your organization, where you work or in your business, and really think about, what does your business say? How does it make your employees feel? And one way to be able to do that is by asking them. And if you're afraid to ask your employees how your organization makes them feel, then that in of itself could be problematic, right? And if they feel uncomfortable or uneasy about giving you honest feedback, that too could be problematic. But I digress. Assess your organization's culture, and do a little further assessing of your own leadership style. And then develop ways to improve your culture using your leadership style. There are a lot of books and workshops and all kinds of things that are out there and available. If you need help finding some of that, you can certainly reach out to me at SCORE. And I'm happy to connect you with some of those resources or help you talk through some of that. But listen to your employees. That's another big one. And then join us again next week, next Tuesday, same time, same bat station, for our next installment of this leadership series. Okay. So that was all I have for tonight. I would definitely want to open it up to any questions, final comments, discussion, anything that you may have. If you don't put it in the chat, if you don't want to speak, go ahead and put it in the chat. But if you want to speak, we want to make space for you to be able to do that. If you gotta go, good night. I hope to see you next week. And I'm just going to hang out here for a few more minutes to answer questions or hear comments and feedback. You're welcome, Elizabeth. I thank you for coming.
Yes, we really appreciate all of you taking the time to come and spend this time with us, and hope that you will plan to continue with the series.
Yes, you're welcome, everybody. You're welcome. Thank you all for bringing your energy. I know it's late, and I appreciate you for taking time out of your night to do that. And I really hope that you found benefit to it.
Yes, and actually you will be getting a survey in the next day or two, probably two. And I hope that you will make comments and let us know how we're doing, what we could do better.
Yes, yes,
So
we take
please
that
respond.
seriously. Thank you, Anita.
Okay, so
All
I
right.
think we're done for tonight. And thank you, Karen. That's
Oh, my
really
pleasure.
been
Anita.
a great session, and we really appreciate it. So
Thank you.
looking forward to next week.
All right, very good. Thank you all.